So in this tutorial, we are going to look at pivot charts. So pivot charts are very important when it comes to analyzing our data. So what differentiates pivot chart with the normal chart is that pivot charts are dynamic in nature, in that they vary with time. They vary according to the kind of data or kind of criteria you put on it. The chart can change and the data can change accordingly. So for example, let us say we have this data pivot charts. Okay, let's say we have list of products that we have sold, including the quantity and the sales that we've made over time. So we want to plot this product according to quantity and sales, and in using pivot charts, and try to vary some of the parameters and see how the table is going to behave in a dynamic way. So to insert a pivot chart, the first thing you need to do is to click out and come to the home tab over here. You just come to insert and you can come straight all the way to pivot charts. So once you click on this small drop down, you can see there are two types of pivot charts. There is pivot charts, the one that is directly pivot charts, and there is pivot charts and pivot tables. Okay, but because we have covered pivot tables in the previous class, we will just concentrate on pivot charts. So we just click on pivot charts to insert our pivot charts. Now once we click on this, the first thing you need to pay attention is you have to choose the data that you want to analyze. So you have to select this to take the range of data that you want to analyze, or you can use an external data source. If you have it somewhere saved within your computer, you can just select on this and choose a connection or to connect with the data that you've saved somewhere within your drive or within your computer. But in this case, we want to select a table within this computer, within this worksheet. So we just click and we can come over here, click on this, and we select this entire table as our table. And once you click on OK or enter or this small arrow, it returns back into the selection or the creating pivot table dialog. So next is we have to choose where you want the pivot table, the pivot charts to be placed. Now you have the option to put it on a new sheet, a new worksheet, or an existing worksheet with this default location. So the default location is this location, and you can change it if you want to new sheet, or you may want to select particular location you may want to target. Once you select everything over here, you can just click on OK, and it's going to bring in this to build a pivot chart. Choose fields from the pivot fields list. Okay, so this is the pivot table fields where you have all the parameters highlighted within the pivot chart, okay, or within the table. You can see the parameters. We have products, we have quantity, and we have sales. So whatever you select is going to come over to this product pivot chart field list. Okay, pivot chart fields. Okay, so you can bring it, it's going to come into the builder. So for example, we may want to plot in product. As soon as we select product, you can see it has brought it into the axis, and it brought it in as a parameter in the platform. So all you need to do is to select another parameter, and once we select, for example, quantity, we want to plot indirectly. What this means is we are plotting product against quantity, and you can see very easily it has just shown us we have plotted product against quantity, and you can see where it sends some of the quantity directly over here. Okay, and if we select sales also, it's going to bring it into this same values tab and give us the sum of sales. Okay, so you can see over here. So what makes this table actually quite dynamic is the fact that you can come to the product over here, and you have the option to sort the product according to, maybe you can sort from A to Z or from Z to A, or you have more sorting options. Once you click on this, you will be able to have the option to manually choose or drag and drop items and rearrange them within the chart, or you can sort accordingly in ascending order based on product or based on quantity, sum of quantity or sum of sales. So for example, we may say sum of product, and we want to go with ascending order. Once you click on OK, it's going to be, this is in ascending order, but then we can put in other features as well. We'll come back to more sorting options. We can say maybe descending order, and we want it to be on sum of quantity. And once you hit on OK, you can see the chart has rearranged to that particular feature or to fit in our value. You can do quite a lot. You can sort from A to Z or Z to A. You can just rearrange, and it's going to go back to, it's going to sort accordingly. And you can do all sort of things. You can decide to show certain products from here. For example, right now everything is selected. You may want to unselect all and just show some selected ones. Maybe you want to show shoes, mouse, cups, and maybe cables. And once you hit on OK, it's going to arrange and show only those values. Okay, so you can see it shows shoes, mouse, cups, and cables. So this is what actually makes the table dynamic. It's very dynamic. You can change everything and you see the value instantly. You can see the sorting. You can come over here, you can clear the filter from here directly, and it will go back to the normal settings as that it was before the filter. So you can click, you can do label filters, you can do equal to, does not equal to, or begins with. For example, we can say we want to see only values that begins with the letter C or thereabout, and then once we click on OK, it's going to rearrange and bring us only the bars that are, or only the products that begin with the letter C. That's cables, cups, and cars. Okay, so you can see the arrangement very easily. So this is how fantastic this table is, and you can easily give you anything that you want. You can do label filters. Okay, does not contain, or contains, or does not ends with, or does not begin with, or less than or equal to, or less than so. You can say less than a given value, and you can just go ahead and just specify. And then let's say we select label filters, and we can come all the way to a equal to, or we can say not between, greater than. So you can see the arrangement. You can come to some of you can come to product, and you can see value filters. Okay, you can do equal to, or greater than something, or less than something, or between this value, or top 10 or thereabout. So all these are covered in the filter options that we've treated recently. So this is how to bring in or deal with the pivot charts and play around with the dynamic nature of it. So one thing you should pay attention to when you are dealing with pivot chart is, once you enable the pivot chart, you will see at the top over here you have the pivot chart analyze that just simply comes up. You have the chart name over here, and you have a range of options that you can play around with over here. You can rearrange the data, you can insert slicers if you want, you can insert timeline, you can refresh in cases when you added a given data, or you want to add a data, or you have made some changes, you want to refresh and get it back on track. And you can change the data source in cases when you don't want all this data. You can change the data source, and the reflection is going to be on the graph easily. And you can clear everything. You can clear all, or you can move the chart from one sheet to another, or from one level box to another. Okay, you can transfer the chart to anywhere. And then you can check out field items and sets over here. You can do all that, and you can play around with the field list and field buttons. You can enable or disable them accordingly very easily from here. Okay, so this is it. Another thing you should pay attention to is, you can see the design tab over here. Because we are dealing with a chart, so we have the design tab. So you can do all this to play around with the chart elements. You have axis title, chart title, data labels and data tables, arrow bars, and all that. You can enable or disable accordingly. You have the quick layout. You can play around and show whatever you want to show in terms of legends, title bars, and whatever you want to show. And you can play around with the color palette as well. So the charts, you can play around with the chart with the color palette as it is changing accordingly, because these are not ordinary colors, they are color palettes. Okay, so you can change them accordingly, and you may decide to play around with the chart styles. You can change it to anything of your choice. As you navigate over, you can see, as you hover over it, you can see the samples of the charts showing up. You can switch rows and columns, you can select different data, you can change the chart type to something else, and you can move the chart also to somewhere. Lastly, you can have the format tab over here, where you can deal with the text that is present in the chart. Okay, you can have multiple of things that you can deal with within the chart. You have the format selection, you can insert different kind of shapes and even text boxes over here. You can insert different kind of shape styles over here. You can see multiple of them. You can insert shape fill, you can enable shape outline and shape effects over here. You can do all that from here. Word art styles, you can have multiple of them. You can play around with all of them over here and enable within your text in the chart. And you have the option to play around with the selection pane and aligning. You can do away with the sizing from here. You can enable or disable or increase or decrease the sizing accordingly. So there is quite a lot that you can do. And additionally, when you double click on the table, when you double click on the chart, you can see the chart options over here. You can see the fill options, you have the border options. You can all play around with all these, change the transparency, the width, the compound type, the dash type, and the cap type. You can do all that. You can play around with the shadow effect, the glow and soft edges. You can play around with the axis properties like the sizing and other properties as well. You can check and uncheck all this. You have the text options also. You can play around with the text options. You can increase or decrease the transparency. Text outline, you can enable or disable. You have the option to play around with the shadow effect as well as the text boxes properties. You can see them over here. So this is about a pivot chart. They are quite dynamic in nature. You can play around with them accordingly as you so wish, and you can export anything that you have plotted in form of pivot charts into Microsoft Word or into your own Word document that you are working on very easily. You can connect them, and as you edit your data from here, it's going to take over and also update itself on the other axis or on the other chart or on the other document that you're working on. So this is about pivot charts. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.